views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren, Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we go front and center discussing the changes needed in healthcare for Black families in New York City. Afterwards, we'll talk about the New York gubernatorial election. We'll give you more details a little bit later on in the show. And then also we'll learn about a program that's addressing the unique needs of transgender and non-binary individuals having gender affirmation surgery. And then finally, we'll discuss a concert series producing a chamber ensemble honoring the life and culture of the people at the borders of the Caribbean and South America. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, a live and interactive show that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. I'm Daren, Jaime, and we also want to thank our viewers who are watching live simultaneously on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. We also encourage you to stay connected to us at our social media platforms at BronxNet TV, and of course, our website at bronxnet.org. Well, some things have been going on through the past week. We'll take you through a couple of them with our Bronx updates. We start off with news in New York City. New York City police officers will no longer patrol subway stations in pairs. The switch to solo patrols comes at a heightened anxiety in the city's vast public transit system. With nearly 500 stations and 250 miles of train to monitor, New York City Mayor Eric Adams was quoted as saying, quote, "By going back to single patrol, we're now doubling the size and you're going to see the omnipresence and the confidence that riders are going to see based on that. It allows us to cover more ground," end quote. The police union immediately criticized the move after the announcement by the mayor, saying the PBA, I should say, said the change would embolden people to fight cops and resist arrest because there wouldn't be someone immediately to back up officers. In other news, June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. In recognition of this, the Yankee organization hosted a very special event. It was a run, walk, roll. Our BronxNet reporter Arlie Makoko has the details.
In recognition of June is Gun Violence Awareness Month, District Attorney Darcel Clark hosted this 5K run, walk, roll event here at 161st Street and the Grand Concourse, where she was joined by survivors from the Bronx, including the family of Anjali Yambo, who was caught in a crossfire of bullets and died April 8th. And Eve Hendricks is the mother of 17-year-old Brandon Hendricks Ellison, who died of gun violence on June 28th of 2020.
You heard those stories from the survivors, whether they're still here or they lost loved ones. They're all turning their pain into purpose, and they're here to bring awareness about what happened to their families so that it doesn't happen to others. We have to run, we have to jog, we have to do any and everything necessary to save our children, to give them the future they deserve.
This is community standing up against gun violence.
State Senator Robert Jackson here joined runners one day after 10 landmark bills were passed in the New York State Legislature to tighten gun laws that would, among other things, raise the age in buying a semi-automatic weapon from 18 to 22.
And there's about 9 other bills that talks about the type of ammunition, micro-stamping of that ammunition.
All this in response to the horrific shootings in Buffalo, New York, and in Uvalde, Texas.
This is a national crisis. We're seeing mass shootings all over.
The Yankee organization also joined the cause, providing all who cross the finish line with 2 complimentary Yankee tickets, and Carolyn Harrer was among those looking forward to a game while taking a stand against violence.
I grew up in New York City, I grew up in the Bronx, and I very much grew up with the mentality that the only people who have guns are cops and the criminals. So if you're not a police officer and if you're not a criminal, you don't have a gun. Like that's my mentality.
Also there participating award-winning best-selling children's book author Anna Nyakana.
There's no reason our children should be dying in the street. There's no reason why mothers should be shot in the street. There's no reason that there should be senseless killing and crime, right? This is a destructive cycle that's continuing day in, day out, and it's not getting any better.
Also a motivational speaker, she says this is where her focus is.
I'm here to save them by showing them how to save themselves. It's actually all of us collectively as one voice, as a singular voice that brings forth change.
In all, there were over 300 who participated in the event to bring awareness and prevent future harm to communities near and far. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
And thank you, Arlene. That is all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We are not out of show. We want you to stay with us as Open continues, coming up right after this.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
And welcome back. The American healthcare system is plagued with inequalities that have disproportionate impact on African American communities as well as other marginalized groups. Now, according to the CDC, African American adults are less likely to see a doctor due to high costs, lack of accessible care, or other barriers. Since 1985, Metro Plus Health Plan has built a reputation for providing access to affordable quality health care to residents of all of New York City. We recently talked with the Chief Growth Officer of Metro Plus Health, Roger Milliner, and we'll go to that interview right now.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and as I outlined in the lead, that when we talk about healthcare inequality, disproportionately affects communities of color. And I know that you're trying to do a good job in terms of bridging the gap.
Absolutely. Here at Metro Plus, we work tirelessly to make sure that areas, particularly areas of color within New York City, have a good representation of minority leaders that can come out and talk to them about things that are affecting them. We work closely with many, city agencies and some community-based organizations, community partners that are also trying to address these issues. So, for example, in Staten Island, we're working on an initiative with the Community Health Action Network and the American Heart Association to bring awareness to men in particular about issues around hypertension and blood pressure, which plague the Black community in many ways. So that's just an example of some of the things that we're doing. We took a barbershop approach because we know that a way to really get people to open up about issues around their healthcare, is doing it in a comfortable environment, a place that they're familiar with. So working closely with the Department of Youth and Childhood Development, we created this barbershop series where we go right into the barbershops and talk to men of color about, hey, these are the issues going on. It's important to have a primary care doctor, et cetera. So.
Yeah. And when we talk about the Black family, obviously a lot goes on. There's some things that some people are aware of, some things that many aren't aware of. But when we look in particularly the African-American community, what are we seeing when it comes to healthcare and the things that really need to be changed and addressed?
Well, one, we need to see providers that sort of reflect the communities that they're in. Oftentimes you go into certain communities of color and there are medical professionals at all levels, whether it's nurses or doctors or other support staff that don't look like the people in those communities. And so one of the things that we need is for more African American physicians and nurses to be represented in those urban areas, in those communities, so that people will begin to open up and communicate more with them and trust them. It also would help that we have people of color in those communities because they have a particular sensitivity to the needs of the community. They understand them a little bit more. They can relate to some of the types of issues that they go through. So I think that representation at the clinical level is important, but equally as important is that we have people of color who are in executive decision-making positions. I happen to be the chief growth officer at a major health insurance company in New York City. And I feel that, being African-American and sitting at the table when decisions are being made on building certain healthcare programs and products, determining what the benefit levels are going to be, advocating for the appropriate financial and cost mechanisms that go into these health plans. It's important to have somebody of color in executive positions, not just in the sales and chief growth officer position of a plan, but as a medical director, at the CFO level, at the COO level. So having executives who are from the community, who understand the culture, to me is just as important as the clinical aspect of it.
Has COVID really shown you anything by way of the work that you do, particularly when it comes to healthcare accessibility?
Oh, yeah. Metro Plus Health Plan is a health insurance company that's owned by a major hospital system, which is known as the New York City Health Plus Hospital Corporation, which is the largest public hospital system in the country. So during COVID, we saw the disproportionate share and an impact that pandemic had on the communities of color. It's no secret that areas like Harlem, areas like Elmhurst and Corona, areas like Jackson Heights, if you turn to Brooklyn, areas of Brownsville were most heavily hit by the pandemic for a lot of reasons. You had compacted amounts of people, congregating in the same place. You think about the public housing system in New York City, where many African Americans and people of color live. It just exacerbated the pandemic and helped it to spread more. But then you also saw a lack of resources that were being pumped into these communities at a time that was most needed. It took way too long for us to get the right clinical people and staff to deal with some of the respiratory issues that we were having in some of the hospital systems and these local medical centers. And then the PPE distribution was slow to get into these communities. The lack of education wasn't there. So yeah, the pandemic showed itself, particularly around areas of color, as it pertained to limited resources, lack of education, and not a faster move to action in some of these areas.
Yeah. And so I also know that some of the work that you do deals with the LGBTQIA community. I'm also really trying to deal with them in the area of meeting their needs. What are we learning there?
Yeah, I mean, in particular, they have their own set of unique, needs as it pertains to, certain types of experimental procedures that they want to get done. And, Metro Plus is a health insurance plan. We don't really look to minimize or reject or decline services that particular audiences need. So the LGBTQ community definitely needs to also have representation. So as I said, we're owned by a hospital system. We have specific medical facilities and clinic areas that specifically cater to that audience. Many of the practitioners and many of the administrative staff are of the LGBTQ community, so they can relate. We go through a lot of sensitivity training around some of their particular needs as a routine requirement for anybody who's a Metro Plus employee or employee of Health and Hospital. And so we're well familiar. We have LGBTQ representation on some of our committees that we have at Metro Plus. We have very specific clinical and medical programs that cater to that audience. And so it's important to include the LGBTQ community when you're developing specific programs and communities, and Metro Plus certainly does that.
Yeah, and I know that one of the things you're doing is really giving an opportunity for them to be able to celebrate Pride Month and your partnership with them. Share with us a little bit about the partnership and how you are embracing and celebrating Pride Month with this community.
Oh, it's been a blast. Metro Plus has participated in all the Pride events. I personally myself went to two. I went to the one in Jackson Heights and Queens, and I went to the one in Brooklyn. And, we truly, stand by what we say. We're a plan that has diversity. And so that audience definitely needs to be celebrated. They need to be represented. They need to be respected. And so Metro Plus is participating in all Pride events that we're aware of and that we can get a sponsorship opportunity with. The big one coming up in Manhattan is coming up very soon, and we're looking forward to that. But yes, we partner with many organizations that are also targeting that audience to make sure that their needs are being met.
So for somebody on the outside saying, listen, I need to get connected, what's the best way for them to get connected in the services that you provide?
So there's a lot of ways. Metro Plus has, and this is important to us, we specifically opened up many community offices right in the neighborhoods that we're referring to. So we have community offices in all the boroughs. If you just go to our website, you can find the locations of our community offices. And so you can meet someone in person. We have recreational vehicles that are positioned in high traffic areas all throughout the city. You can come to any one of the New York City Health and Hospital, acute care hospital facilities, and you'll find a Metro Plus representative. But you can also go to our website at www.metroplus.org, or you can contact us at 855-809-4073. That's 855-809-4073, which is a dedicated phone number that people can contact for more information about our plan and to get assistance with any health insurance assistance in education that they need.
Well, Roger, definitely been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for the services that you provide, and certainly we'll continue to watch and see how things develop. But as we do see things on the rise, and Metro Health Plus really stepping up to really be an asset to our community. So thanks so much for the work that you do.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Looking forward to working with you.
All righty. Well, I want to let you know, if you want more information, don't hesitate to visit them at their website, metroplus.org. And then also, listen, follow them on social media at Metro Plus Health. Well, we got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up right after this.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back to the show. The 2020 midterms will determine whether Democrats retain or lose their fragile control over the U.S. Senate and the House, along with the balance of power in many states holding legislative and gubernatorial contests. Now, the June 28th primary is the first of two state primaries this year and includes several key intra-party battles for governor, lieutenant governor, and state assembly. We also have the decision that was recently announced by the Supreme Court in overturning Roe v. Wade. Joining us now to share more details is the editorial page editor at the New York Post, Mike Benjamin. And Mike, I'll first start with the news of Roe v. Wade. We know that news was originally leaked out, so in some ways, no new surprise, but yet and still a surprise because some people didn't even see this would be the final outcome.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming, but it's still a stunner. I mean, we know it's coming. It's a stunner. Women those who support abortion and the right to choice are stunned by it. I mean, it's the first time in recorded American history that a right that was determined and given by a court the interpretation of the Constitution has been taken away, and so that's a big surprise. Not one very many of us expected. Lots of precedents. The belief was because the precedent over the last almost 50 years that it would continue. Sort of continued, although somewhat curtailed by the Casey decision regarding abortions. But the six conservative justices were determined to undo choice, give states greater flexibility, latitude in limiting abortions, going from the current under Roe 24 weeks to now as low as 15, and may be taken even lower by some states. I mean, you've had one state has a bounty on doctors and individuals who have abortions to report them. It's very chilling, and I think it is a choice a woman makes. Sometimes, hopefully, with her partner, but it's still a woman's choice. And then the court said that under the privacy statutes, the privacy of the Constitution, a woman had a right to exercise that choice.
And when we talk about this choice, we know that New York State has made its choice of being a sanctuary city, and so as a sanctuary state, I should say. And talk to us about that, and how well do you think, on another flip, I'll give you the turn on this one, how well do you think with New York becoming a sanctuary state, this could possibly bolster Governor Kathy Hochul's status, given the fact that she's a woman?
Yeah, I think the decision basically helps her with the women voters, with other liberal Democratic voters in the party, and in the current primary, which is underway with early voting and officially takes place on Tuesday. I think she is helped by it. I mean, she's been strong on it. I mean, she could have been stronger in the waning days of the legislature. She could have put in a bill to codify Roe v. Wade as part of the state constitution, but now she has to wait at least 2 years, maybe in a special session, putting forth a bill, and then that same bill has to be passed by a different legislature the following year. And then before it goes to voters to vote in the upcoming November election. We'll see what happens with that, but it certainly does strengthen our hand, as does this the Supreme Court decision yesterday on Thursday regarding New York State's a gun carry permit law. And also it bolsters her as a person strong when it comes to gun safety and gun control. I mean, I think the last 2 days benefit her campaign.
When we talk about benefiting the campaign, certainly she is getting ready to be primaried. Give us your take, Tom Suozzi, Jumaane Williams. What's your call?
Well, as you know, the New York Post endorsed Tom Suozzi for the Democratic nomination. The more liberal progressive Jumaane Williams is also in this fight. But even the Hochul campaign put out a memo where basically they said their victory is imminent. It's coming on Tuesday. They believe they're going to win. That they believe all their polls are showing Governor Kathy Hochul, we can call an accidental governor. She is a shoo-in for the Democratic nomination as of Tuesday evening after the polls close. And then she'll have to face a Republican. The Post endorsed Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin. But recent polls just show that Zeldin is only 2 points ahead of Andrew Giuliani, who believes that President Trump's election was stolen in 2020. And so he had the credibility issue in that regard. Andrew Giuliani does not want to be vaccinated. He's not getting his family vaccinated. He's standing because he says he had the coronavirus. He believes that he's built up an immunity, and therefore he does not need to be vaccinated. We'll see if voters, will vote for him because of association with Trump, and his association with his dad, and his stands on believing Trump lost the election stolen, and other things that it seems some of the Republicans believe were aligned with Trump.
Yeah. Well, give me this take here. When we talk about Governor Kathy Hochul, she really hasn't done a whole lot of in-person events. Some people felt that though that's a good thing. Some people feel as though that's a bad thing that could kind of work against her. Your thoughts?
Well, it depends on what we call in-person events and where she goes. I mean, in my job, I look at the Flickr pages of our elected officials, whether it's the mayor or the governor or other elected officials, to see what they're doing on a daily basis, where they're going, for official business, what photographs are in their Flickr account, and a great number of Governor Hochul's events based on Flickr have been in the New York City area. She's been in Brooklyn, she's been in Harlem, as has her Lieutenant Governor choice, Congressman Antonio Delgado. I know she's been in Buffalo. She's from the Buffalo area, so she returns there frequently. And prior to becoming governor, as lieutenant governor, she traveled throughout various parts of the state where she is, I guess, known to folks up there. Whether or not she hasn't done a lot of debates, that's true. She's had instituted sort of the Rose Garden strategy of I'm the incumbent. They have to come after me. I don't have to give them credibility by debating them here and there and everywhere. And so she's limited the debates, I believe, to 2 or 3. And so she's managed to, as far as those appearances go, yes, she's managed those, and she's been limited in that. But it seems it hasn't affected her in the polls. All the polls are showing her, greatly ahead of her 2 rivals, Tom Suozzi and Jumaane Williams. So it's working in her favor.
Yeah, we do have a race that's also talked about. That's the lieutenant governor race. Of course, the governor's going to get the high attention, but there is that lieutenant governor race. Break that down for us.
Well, you have Jumaane Williams, who has his nominee, his candidate for lieutenant governor, Anna Maria Archella. She's an immigrant American running for lieutenant governor. She has been quite active in the immigrant community here in New York City. She's been active around a lot of issues, and she's very progressive. In fact, I believe this week she received the nomination of left-leaning Congresswoman AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And maybe she believes that's going to take her over the top. Then you have Tom Suozzi, the lieutenant governor candidate. I think, the lieutenant governor candidate, the former city council member, and the former deputy borough president for Brooklyn, whose name right now is escaping me. And then, of course, you have Antonio Delgado, the former congressman, who's now the state lieutenant governor, having replaced Brian Benjamin, who was disgraced and having been indicted and forced from office. Delgado seems to have an advantage because he's sort of the sitting lieutenant governor, sort of the incumbent. I'm not sure. There's some controversy among Latinos about whether or not his claim to be Latino is actually true. He has a Spanish surname, but it's from Cape Verde in West Africa, which was once a Portuguese colony. And some people don't even think Portuguese people are Latinos. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. He has money, Archella and Swazi's. I can't believe her name is escaping me right now. And she's
It's okay. I'm on the fence too here.
I can't believe I've forgotten her name. But you know, they've all been in politics. They've all been in office. I mean, except for Archilla. She's the one that has no political experience other than as an organizer. You know, there are some that are concerned that none of the three candidates for lieutenant governor, the Democrats, have any service which qualifies them in a way to be, governor on day one. Should something happen to Governor Hochul, whether she leaves office or goes to a higher office or resigns for whatever reason, are they prepared to take her place? And that's a very relevant question given what happened in the last 15, 20 years with lieutenant governors, assuming the governorship because the governor was forced to leave office. So it's a very important question for voters to consider and to ask when they cast their votes, I guess today through early voting, and then again for those who then choose to vote on election day, primary day on Tuesday, the 28th.
Does the name Diana Reyna bring
Diana
about?
Reyna, thank you. She was a very good member of the city council. She was a very good, deputy borough president in Brooklyn. She understands politics and government very, very well. I would think she has the edge over the others, only because she's probably better well known in New York City than Lieutenant Governor Delgado is. Much, I think, better known among Latinos across New York City and across maybe the state. And having, I think she did well in lieutenant governor debates and in holding her positions. Delgado, I didn't think did that well. Chilla believes in her progressive values, and that came very clearly through in all of the debates. But I think Diana Reyna, in my view, would be the best of the three as lieutenant governor.
Yeah, a lot to watch out for, Michael, and certainly give me final predictions before we go.
Final predictions. I would say Hochul wins the Democratic nomination for governor. In a surprise, Diana Reyna wins the lieutenant governor nod for the Democrats. And I think Lee Zeldin wins the Republican nomination over, even though Giuliani is going to give him a tough time. I think Zeldin wins at the end of the day because he has institutional GOP support across the state. And I'm not aware of any Supreme Court decisions coming down next week, which for us would be a breather, and not having to worry about how life in New York and across the country is going to change because of a now very conservative court that is putting forth its will and its values on the nation, and its will and its values do not reflect that of many Americans, and many polls have shown most Americans, support current abortion rights and not changing them. Many believe that states have a right to control the use and the carry of guns within their borders. This court believes otherwise, and it'll be interesting to see in the years to come what happens, and how elected officials in Congress and the state legislatures respond to these Supreme Court decisions.
Mike, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we'll check back next week and find out how your predictions worked out. Michael Benjamin. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All righty. Want you to stay with us. Guess what? We do have more open coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll return right after this. And welcome back to the show. June is Pride Month, and it's an opportunity to celebrate the accomplishments as well as the resilience of the LGBTQ community and to acknowledge the many challenges that still are remaining. Now, research shows people of transgender and non-binary experience higher levels of discrimination in healthcare, and for people of color, the number even higher. Not-for-profit home health provider VNS Health, formerly known as VNSNY, started its gender affirmation program to address the post-surgical needs of GAP patients. Here now to tell us more, we've got the clinical director of the VNS Health Gender Affirmation Program, there's Shannon Whittington. And Shannon, I had to get the name changed together first, but I'm glad to have you with us, and thanks so much for being with us.
I'm delighted to be here, Daren. That's a mouthful, right?
It is a mouthful, but it's a better mouthful with the name changed the way that it is, but it's okay. Listen, I want to thank you for coming and sharing, but talk to us a little bit about the work that you do.
Oh, it's just such important work, Daren. I'm the clinical director of the Gender Affirmation Program here at VNS Health. We call it GAP. And I teach clinicians how to take care of transgender and non-binary patients after they have their surgery. So we provide home care to these individuals in the safety and comfort of their home. And I absolutely love what I do.
Well, talk to us a little bit about this here, because when we talk about where we are today, a lot of progress has been made, but I want you to share with me a little bit as we talk a little bit about the gender affirmation.
Well, it's a lot of progress, but we still have a lot of work to do. And that's why I'm so pleased to be able to offer these services to a marginalized population. Average research shows that the nurse gets about 2 hours of education in this area. So we're really not taught in nursing school how to care for these individuals. And that's what we're changing here at VNS Health. I've trained over 400 clinicians in how to care for these individuals. And these individuals can feel safe in their home, receiving culturally sensitive care, receiving affirming care, because after all, Daren, this is one of the most important decisions that they make in their entire lives.
Right. When we talk about care and you talk about gender affirming care, it's a term that we hear many people aren't familiar with. Walk us through what exactly is gender affirming care?
Well, it's really about cultural sensitivity, where we are recognizing that some individuals do not identify in what we call our binary society of male or female. Some individuals exist along a gender spectrum, somewhere between that. As far as transgender individuals go, these individuals disagree with their assigned anatomical sex. You know, the baby pops out, the doctor looks between the hips and says, it's a girl, it's a boy. Well, these individuals don't really agree with that. So a lot of times they will have affirming surgery to reflect how they feel inside. So they either have a creation of a body part or removal of body parts. And the work that's being done these days is just absolutely beautiful. These individuals go on to live very successful lives and integrate well in society in general.
Yeah. So we talk about the LGBT community and VNS Health, and really has done a great job in meeting the needs and also trying to address the needs. But for somebody who may not be so familiar, walk us through a little bit about the services that are available for those in the LGBTQ community.
Well, we also have services for LGBTQ elder patients who come in to see us, because we want to be able to identify these patients if they self-identify, so that we can provide patient-centered care to them, understanding that who may be next to them may be their partner, may be their spouse. It may not look like a traditional heteronormative family where there's a wife and a husband. It could be two men together, two women together, trans people together, people who are gender nonconforming, people who are gender expansive. And our program covers all of that so that we really understand more about this patient to be able to provide patient-centered care. And that's just really important to us.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about you for a minute, because you have recently received some awards, and I want to talk about some of that. I know that you received the Quality and Innovation Award from the Home Care Association of New York State, the Daisy Award, but most recently you were named as Crain's New York Notable LGBTQ plus leaders. And what does it mean for you to be able to be named as a leader, to be regarded for your work, and understanding your sensitivity towards this population?
It's an honor. I was very excited to receive these awards. I never thought that in my nursing career that this would be my platform. I identify as a cisgender gay female myself. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I was just going along my career just like any other nurse would, and I kind of fell into this work. And it just completely transformed the trajectory of my career. And during that time, I discovered a lack of knowledge that we have in healthcare. And that's something that I want to change across the nation to really transform how healthcare is delivered to the rainbow community.
What can be done better if we really took a look at things? What, from your perspective, can we do in the immediate short term that can really make an impact?
I think it really starts with self, Daren, really recognizing what are some of the things that we can do to support this community, whether we are a part of this community or we know someone, maybe our children, someone in school. And I think it's about allyship and just recognizing the importance of that. There's many things that we can do to be inclusive to people within this community because, Daren, I don't know if you know or not, but nearly 50% of people in the LGBTQ plus community hide. They hide at work. I'm one of them. I used to hide at work because I was afraid. Research shows we may get passed over for promotions, discriminated against, all sorts of things. So I think things are changing. There's a lot of legislation out there now that's, that we are on the attack for, and we're really hoping that things can become a little bit more inclusive across the nation. But I think allyship, it's a saying, see something, do something, see something, say something. I think that really starts there. It starts with us. One person really can change the world.
So, not to go too deep, but when you were at work, you said, Shannon, look, I kind of like hid. I didn't feel comfortable in being this, right? But now we've seen an emergence and an acceptance, if you will. What's it like for you now to be able to, to be free, to live free, to work free, given the fact that that kind of stigma has already been lifted?
Oh my gosh, it's liberating. It really is. It feels really yucky to have to hide. And you just don't feel like you can be your true self. And imagine every day you walk out your door, you've got to hide. I can't put my wife's picture on my desk. Why not? Is someone going to deface that picture? But now it just feels good. I can be myself, happy, proud, out, loud.
Mm-hmm.
It feels wonderful. It really does. And I'm really excited to be able to work at an organization that supports this and supports this work. We are the only organization, to my knowledge, in the nation that's doing this. And that's why we've received so many accolades. The National Institute of Health has granted us a $3.4 million grant for a qualitative longitudinal study for quality of life of our patients. City Council has endowed us with funds, and I'm able to provide more assistance to these patients for things that's not covered by insurance. So we're being recognized across the nation for the wonderful work that's being done here. And it just feels great to lead this charge.
Well, Shannon, I want to congratulate you on the work that you're doing. Happy Pride Month. And I want you to know that certainly we appreciate all that you're doing and the fact that you enjoy what you're doing. Anybody that watches this segment can be able to tell that. And so thank you so much for being with us. And of course, best wishes. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Daren. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. All right. Well, Shannon has been our guest. Want to let you know if you want more, all you got to do is go to the website, vnshealth.org, vnshealth.org, and you can find out more information. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We've got more show Open Continues coming up right after this. Welcome back to the show. The Multicultural Music Group is a not-for-profit organization established in 1996 as a response to the need for multicultural music representation in the symphonic repertoire. Now, the concert series presents a major historical event from a particular region of the world with a minor media exposure. Now, joining us now to share more details, we're pleased to have the Director of Community Relations at Multicultural Music, Sofia Mojica. And we thank you so much for being with us. Mojica, I'm sorry.
You got it, Daren. That's okay. Hi, how is it going?
It's going good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and talk to our communities about what's happening locally. We will be at the Lehman Stages, a gorgeous, gorgeous theater, capacity of about 500 people with a full orchestra, 35-piece orchestra performing music from all around the world, specifically celebrating the cultures and the history of the Caribbean, specifically the Dominican Republic and Haiti, along with countries in South America, including Panama and Costa Rica and Venezuela and Colombia.
And when we talk about multicultural music, obviously, your emphasis, right? But talk to us about the importance of people being able to have an opportunity to recognize and realize the diversity of music culture.
It's so important. And one of the main motivators for the beginning of this organization was the fact that there was a lack of diversity on symphonic stages across the board, especially in New York. And we all know the challenge that arts programs have with funding. So this initiative was really started to show the Upper Manhattan and Bronx communities that our cultures too have a place on large symphonic stages.
And so talk to us about what we're going to experience in this concert series.
So this concert series really gives a voice to the stories untold. The theme for this year is borders. So really telling the stories of the immigrant experience between the borders of all the countries that I listed earlier. And it is to acknowledge their triumph and their resiliency and their place in other parts of the world. So we see a huge diaspora here in New York City. We see cultures from all over. And so we're highlighting those people specifically. And those are people that make up our communities, people that I engage with on a daily basis. And it's really kind of closing that loop and tying that circle and talking about belonging and unity and cross-cultural similarities. We'll also be presenting the music, original music that is commissioned and composed by musicians of these cultures themselves. And they'll be telling the story through their musical compositions of the experience of folks who've crossed the border. So this is really an opportunity not just to have cultures represented, but also to experience the emotion, the depth and the weight of those stories through a symphonic experience.
So when we talk about the stories being told, obviously a lot of history, a lot of culture that sometimes people are not so familiar with. What do you find to be the biggest takeaway from people once they haven't experienced of the orchestra or this multicultural music experience?
Absolutely. I can tell a story from our performance last week. So the other thing I'll mention is that this performance next week is the last of the series. So we've been performing all across Upper Manhattan and the Bronx all summer. And this June 30th is the last of the series. And last week's performance at the Lobinger Theater was really touching because there was a student. So we also have students perform in our concerts, because part of what the Multicultural Music Group offers is a symphonic youth instruction to public school students across Upper Manhattan and the Bronx. And so we invite the students to have the experience of performing with professional musicians, adults, on a live stage, to really get that exposure, that experience, and that inspiration, if they'd like to pursue that kind of art and career for themselves. So in last week's performance, one of the students and his family was from the country that was being portrayed that night. And they were the only people that the composer had ever met from his hometown in Guatemala. And it was the first time that that student and his family had seen their country so largely celebrated, really just at that scale. And it brought tears to everyone's eyes. It was very touching.
Yeah. And so as we look now to the future, talk to us about what you got your eyes set on past this. Obviously a great event coming up, but there's still more to come.
Absolutely. And so next year's series, since this is the final of this year's, we're hoping to go big or go home. You know, we're hoping to collaborate with other like-minded organizations, other like-minded individuals, and really give voice to this project that we're conducting through our performances, and invite more people and just get more exposure, and also like hear from our communities what they'd like to see represented, what stories they'd like to see told. So it really is just a collaborative effort of providing resources and experiences to our community, these enrichment opportunities that often these isolated areas don't have, and also just having a good time and providing people the opportunity to enjoy musical performances in the summer.
Yeah, I think that it's an opportunity that many people, once they take advantage of, will definitely find more than they expected. So many times we don't get the opportunity to see culture played out in a diverse way. And I want to thank you for doing this, because I think that in many ways it opens the doors for many people to be able to see the great talent that we have. And sometimes it's not easily or readily available, but I'm thankful that you're able to offer some exposure. So thanks so much.
Of course, absolutely. And this is an invitation to anyone and everyone. If you are a musician, if you are a student, if you're interested in cultural musical education at all, we are a resource that's available to you.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Sofia, for being with us. I want to let you know, Sofia Mojica, our guest, and want to let you know, if you want more information, don't forget to visit the website at multiculturalmusic.org. Also, the website borders.12.eventbrite.com for ticket information. Now, the date and time, June the 30th from 7 to 9 p.m. At the Lovinger Theater at Lehman College. There you'll be able to see, hear, and witness a great performance. Sofia, again, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Daren.
All righty. Sofia Mojica, thank you so much. Well, I want to let you know that we've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all the guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of today's show, don't forget to catch the recablecast on BronxNet's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, that'll be Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. We also want to let you know that if you're looking for a brand new episode, come back on Friday. Check out my girl, Rena Valentine. She'll bring you the best in arts and entertainment. Until next week, I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, thank you for watching, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.